What's up, dudes? It's Not Your Trainer here with another great video to help you be a step ahead of the competition with great tips and tricks from a 2K League player. We have talked in the past about general concepts to get yourself combine ready. Now, we will begin the series breaking down each position and archetype. This will be an opinion piece of what I believe will be the best builds, so take what I say with a grain of salt. This isn't a definitive guide. I rank some builds higher or lower based on my previous experience, but that doesn't mean you can't use the builds I deemed worse and make the league. If you can ball, that is all that matters. The ranking system is quite simple, but I will break it down so as to not cause confusion. Red means the build has next to no redeemable qualities. There are things they are obviously good at, but there are builds that get close to it but do things better in other areas. They might be good builds for the 2K League or in Pro-Am, but the Combine is a different game mode and a different monster. You are in alone with random players, and you will have next to no coordination or chemistry, and these builds suffer in that environment. You have been warned. Yellow is where things get interesting. These builds are good, but are usually just outclassed by other ones available. They might struggle in a major category that you will need to make the pool. I would only recommend a yellow build if you feel you are elite at the archetype and have a lot of experience on it. Green is exactly how it sounds. In the Combine environment, they are some of the best builds at their position. They are usually great stat sheet stuffers and can do multiple things at a high level that scouts and managers look for. They are builds that you can comfortably take over with even if your team is lackluster. They require the least team setup and coordination and just set you up for the most success. These are the builds I would highly recommend for every player to use for the Combine. Now that we have explained the rating system, let's jump right in.
The shooting guard position is probably the least used underutilized in 2K and will reflect in the Combine. Your job is to simply put the ball in the basket, but do it in an efficient manner and to do it in primarily off-ball situations. You are up to the mercy of your team around you, and you may see the least amount of touches. That's just the nature of the position and playing off-ball. The builds are quite different at this position in year 2 of the Combine, and the emphasis this 2K on less paint mashing means the wings will probably get more looks and be required to space the floor a little bit more. You are the ultimate glue for the team, needed to fill holes on offense and play great off-ball defense. Statistically, you need to average close to 25 or more points and 3 or more assists a game. While those numbers look rather tame to get in a vacuum, it can be quite difficult because of the nature of your role in most offenses. Let's get right into the builds and the overall metagame I expect to see. So this is probably going to be the most controversial opinion and rating of builds in this entire video series. The Pure Lock. It's godly in Pro-Am and at the shooting guard position in Pro-Am. It is an oppressive force and every team runs at least one and usually two. So why would I rate this build so badly? Simply that it's a 90 overall and no boosts, and you'll have close to a 64 to 65 3-point rating. And all those badges are going to be dropped by 1. That means bronze corner specialist and gold defensive badges. Now that normally wouldn't be a problem in Pro-Am, but the Combine build is different. You will make 3 out of 10 threes in the corner with this build wide open, maybe 4 if you're an elite shooter, so people will sag off you. I know what you're thinking. Well, if I can't shoot, I can just slash and attack the rim, right? Trust me, you won't be able to. The paint will be clogged from centers and likely power forwards sitting down there, and with the changes this year in the paint offense means you aren't going to make much. On top of all that, you will be guarding the off-ball player. You won't be switched onto the point guard. So you'll likely be chasing around a pure sharp or another pure lock. Your steals and points are going to be lackluster, and I would only recommend this build if you feel you're absolutely elite at it. I'm talking top 3 or 4 lock at your position in your console. So if you feel you're a top 5 lock on Xbox or PlayStation, maybe you can consider this build. If you can average 20 points per game and maybe 6 to 7 steals per game, you have a shot, but I doubt many can average 20 points per game on the pure lock shooting guard. Avoid this build. It is the biggest trap in the entire Combine. It will keep a few good players out of the league because they used it because it is good in Pro-Am and it's not going to reflect in the Combine build. The next build is something a little less controversial in that I think a lot of people can consider the worst build at shooting guard, the sharpshooting defender. It would be the build I would suggest if you absolutely wanted to play lockdown and play good defense, as it's a better shooter, a better corner shooter, and a better perimeter offense while not losing much offensive capabilities of slashing. but it's just really not very athletic with or without the ball, and the shooting badges will likely be bronze. It just doesn't do any one good thing elite, and the only thing it is even good at is defense. Just an overall poor build where its strengths are something you don't want off ball defense, especially at the shooting guard position. This is the build that will draw the most interest at shooting guard, the pure sharpshooter. I think all of us know that the build is the scariest off-ball build in the entire combine. If you have a point guard who lets you wrap and knows how to hit you, you can average 25 to 30 easily, but this can also be a drawback. You are very one-dimensional as a player, and you need your team to set you up on nearly every play. Other than that, it has the best upside and pure offensive output of the shooting guards. It's not great on defense, but there aren't many ball handling builds at shooting guard that can exploit its poor defense. My biggest concern is when these builds run into pure locks, and you will be running into pure locks. There will be quite a few people running them, and they absolutely murder this build, and your offensive output drops more. If you know how to left right and get the pure locks behind you on wraps, use this build. Otherwise, I would suggest the next build. This next build is the Swiss Army knife of the shooting guard position, the sharpshooting shot creator. You can shoot extremely well from every part of the court, are deadly from mid-range, you can attack the rim if need be because of the shot creating primary and the high driving dunk. You can put the ball on the floor and is the most unpredictable and hard to guard shooting guard builds, which means you can handle the pure lock decently if it's on it. The caveat though is that this build really needs to know how to play with the mid-range. If you're afraid to shoot leaners and drifters from mid-range, you might as well be on a pure sharp, and it cuts your effectiveness tremendously. Finally, this is the most independent shooting guard build. You do not need to be set up by a point guard dime or a center kickout. You can run the break and do everything good to great on offense, so use it. This build I would recommend every shooting guard use, but it can be tricky for some players to play the mid-range game, and is not for everybody. So this next build is in a difficult situation. I think this build will be used in the 2K League if the builds are the same, but that doesn't mean it should be used in the Combine. I'm talking about the sharpshooting playmaker. It will be pretty similar to its point guard counterpart, but have its deep range deadeye higher by one stage. It is the best ball handler at shooting guard, and is the scariest in transition. The problem on why I grade it where it is that it simply won't get many chances to bring the ball up on the break or to run the offense. The build isn't elite of a shooter, and I would rather sacrifice pure playmaking potential a few times a game to maximize on my off-ball offense, where you'll be majority of your time at shooting guard. If you can somehow convince your team to let you run point guard every game, I would recommend this build, but it's not a good look on you to ask to bring the ball up every game. The build isn't bad, it's just bad for the environment and how we play. There is no reason to pick this build over the pure sharp or sharp shot, because the pure sharp is better on offense, and the sharp shot is also, but it can also create for itself. The strengths of this build aren't meant for the Combine. That should wrap up the shooting guard builds. Like and subscribe for more great 2K content as I break down other builds and positions to help you up your 2K game.